Everybody ready? Roll call. So we have three of us here, so we have a quorum for today. We have, looks like 5 hearings in front of us. So first order, I'll take a motion to accept staff report.
I make a motion, we accept the staff report.
I'll second that.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Everybody had a chance to go over the minutes. I would entertain the motion to approve or correct the minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from our May 8th meeting.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Okay, I guess now we're down to communications.
All right, just a little quick overview on that. We did, the last time we met in May, we had the notice of intent for the proposed language amendment that we were having when we took those to the Board of County Commissioners on May 21st. That got approved and the process has now started for the notice of intent for everything that we discussed last meeting. And if all goes well, those should be approved at the July 16th Board of County Commissioner meeting.
Excellent. Anything else? Are we ready to get started or got one for Eric?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So as you know, Jim Zimmerman's last day was last Friday. So we appreciate all his service and work for the last almost 15 years. And so with that, we have a replacement. I want to introduce you to Alan Adams. He carries a lot of experience of fire inspection, over 20 years. And then he came from the actual Wyoming State Fire Marshal's office where he was a fire inspector. So carries a lot of knowledge with him. We appreciate him coming here to the county and filling in for Mr. Zimmerman. So we appreciate that. Thanks. Thank you, Mr.
Welcome to
Chairman.
the team.
Yeah, welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, let's see. I guess our first public hearing will be, are we doing them all order? Okay, Richard Vasa for minimum setback variance.
Yes, that's correct. I just was gonna wait. I don't know, my screen's not showing up on the other screens, so. All right. Okay, thank you. All right, so this is a variance application for minimum setback, and it is for a property at 160 Pollux Drive in Rock Springs. It's zoned light industrial within the growth management area. So we can see just kind of the area here, light industrial with some residential around it. And then we've got our aerial view as well. The proposed addition here, or sorry, the variance permit is for a proposed addition to an existing building. And it's so that it can be allowed to encroach 5 feet 2 inches into the front setback of 25 feet. So I do have a blurb here, but the pictures I think will tell a little bit better of a story, and feel free to read through that, but it'll say the same thing as this, just this will be with visual. So the first permit, just kind of to let you know how we got here and meeting the variance, a little bit of background, that first permit that we got for this building was in 1979. And we can see the shot building here drawn, showing that it's 40 feet from this property line, and that it's also oriented very like straight on the property, so parallel to this west property. Then we move on to 1997. We have another permit. They proposed to add this office addition here. Based on this drawing, this site plan, they show that the new addition would put them at 25 feet and 6 inches away from the property line. So they would still be, you know, well within that 25-foot setback, if this was all accurate. But show you the current site map now, and we can see that the building was actually built sort of at an angle on this property. And then also the original construction was not 40 feet from the property line. It was actually 33 feet. And then with the addition here, it was 21 feet from that property line. So it was within that setback. So they've actually been in the setback since 97 when that was constructed. So what they're proposing today is just to be able to have a variance to where they can add this new addition here, this piece in yellow, to square off the building. And then they would be 19 feet, 8 or 19.8 feet from the property line. So 5 feet or 5.2 feet, sorry, from the, or into the setback. So we've got our views here from the north, south, east, west of the site. And good to move on to our review criteria. We've got 3 for variance. The first here is just that, this property was constructed in a way that doesn't necessarily match the site plans that we were given. And so there was a variation there that wasn't accounted for on the next permit that was approved, the one in 1997. And so we have that issue there where they're in the setback. It's just some inaccurate records there, but it's the responsibility of the property owners to make sure that the setback requirements are met, but the land use department also did not field verify the accuracy of the previously submitted permits after that construction was completed. The next one here is something that I kind of want to answer in just a couple pieces. So the first part here is that strict application of the provisions of the Sweetwater County zoning resolution would deprive the applicant of reasonable use of the land or building, and that the adjustment is necessary or reasonable, and that it's the minimum adjustment required. So to answer those different parts there, staff finds that the request to square off the building is a reasonable use of the property. It's, a perfectly simple minimum adjustment, and it's the, smallest adjustment necessary to fulfill the request there. Also, if the variance is not granted, the office addition that's been standing since 97 would need to be removed, which would cause a hardship for the property owner. And the final criteria that we looked at here is just, is this variance in harmony with the zoning resolution? And would it be injurious or detrimental to public welfare? And historically, there's been no voice concerns that there's, any problems with the shop being within that setback. And so we don't feel that it would be injurious or detrimental to public welfare. And also, no concerns have been voiced. So it seems to be fine with the neighborhood. Additionally, once that building, the addition is constructed, it will be inspected. And so it will be held to international fire code standards, and all of those safety concerns will be addressed there. For our public agency comments, public and agency comments, we had 2, Mark Berry with Lumen and Jared Martin with Marathon. Both said no conflict, so no issues in that area with their agencies. And then staff recommendation is approval of the variance with the following condition, and that the variance is specific to the proposed addition, which is the permit 2024-013, and then also to the existing addition from 1997, and does not apply to any other structure. Okay, and the applicant is present here today.
The applicant, would the applicant like to come up and address the board? She can handle it very good. Okay, so I will open it up to public comments. Anybody have comments, step forward, state your name and seeing no comments, we'll close public comments. Any questions from the board?
I'm just glad to see this getting cleaned up here, and believe me, that lot area over there has always been well maintained and looks amazing. So yeah, I think this is a great addition.
Anything else? With that, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll entertain a motion to approve public hearing number 1, Richard Vesa on behalf of the Searle Brothers Construction.
I'll second.
With staff recommendations.
Recommendations, there's just a comment.
Okay.
Oh, what was that? Is there,
I speak
there
up
is
on
one condition, sorry.
There's one.
Yeah,
condition.
just that the variance is specific
Variance.
to the proposed addition and the
So
office
including
addition there.
The staff's recommendation.
Second.
Yeah, I'll second.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. On to the next one. Have fun.
All right, you guys only get to hear from me once today, so hopefully I won't bore you with this one. The next public hearing that we have today is for a zone map amendment to go from I2, which is heavy industrial, to R3, which is our really configured high density residential zone district. The property owner is Red Horse Oil Company and the applicant is Brian Morenzik with 191 LC. The legal is for approximately 81.41 acres located in a section township range that I'll further explain in the zoning map. That'll make a little more sense. And it is also worth noting that the property is within the growth management area. Fire District 1 is the responding agency. US Highway 191 runs just at the front part of the property, and infrastructure does exist within the area, but not directly to said property. They are within the West Side Water and Sewer District, of course, just providing sewer, and City of Rock Springs is who would provide water. That's also within the area, and Rocky Mountain Power would be the servicing provider for that as well. We'll go ahead and jump to the zone map. And as you can see, the property is located just a little bit northeast of where the Justice Center is at on 191. There's lots of heavy industrial to the north, a little bit to the south, mostly to the west. You've got agricultural both to the south and the east as well. And just to get a little bit of background with the reason this request came in, going from heavy industrial to high density residential, is there has been interest in this property for a subdivision process. Actually, one of the main reasons why staff looked at doing the language amendments we did at the end of last year to allow for potential townhome or high density residential development. There has been a subdivision sketch plat that has been submitted, Wilkins Peak, to the department, which proposed a 7-phase subdivision consisting of approximately 233 lots to 269, depending upon how many lots would be used for townhome development. So that's why the range changes a little bit there. And the applicant does believe that the zone change would help better serve the community by helping to provide and create affordable residential housing. And this is why they're wanting to move forward prior to moving forward with the preliminary plat and the final plat, just to get a feel for where the board and the county are at with such proposal. As you can see by the aerial, there's a few drainages located on the property. It does have the highway running along the frontage of it. And you can see the beautiful pictures that was taken when Jim Zimmerman was here and when we posted for public notice on May 23rd of this year. And we'll jump straight into the 6 review criteria that we look at for a zone map amendment. The first being consistent and compatible with the current resolution and comprehensive plan. In our zoning resolution, it states that R3 high-density residential zone should be applied judiciously where infrastructure exists. Currently, there's no water and sewer to the property, but the area does have the ability for that to be run, with it being located more kind of where Lagoon Road is at, just a little bit north of the property, north and west. Criteria number 2 is the proposed zoning suitable to the existing topography and creating buildable lots. Staff does find that the topography is suitable for residential use. However, there are several major drainages located on the property, and drainage is something that would need to be addressed during the subdivision process. Criteria number 3, is it compatible with existing allowable uses within the adjacent properties or neighboring zone districts? As we saw with the zone map amendment, there's a lot of heavy industrial to the north and west of this that staff does find could be a little bit problematic, but definitely not something that can't be handled, and would be something that the applicant would need to address with possible buffering or potential screening to lessen the impact on future industry if some of that land were to get developed for heavy industrial needs, and also if the subdivision were to be built in the proposed location as well. So just a few things to consider. Nothing that's saying it can't happen, but just a few areas that would need to be addressed as well. Criteria number 4 are adequate public facilities, including roads, drainage, potable water, sanitary sewer, police and fire protection exist or will serve or exist to serve the request at such time facilities are needed. As was identified in the sketch plat, when Wilkins Peak subdivision got turned in, the applicant will need to work with the appropriate agencies to make sure all of these requirements are addressed. There is infrastructure in the general area, but again, is not serviced directly to the property. Just so one of those things can get addressed when it gets to that point. Just a typical hurdle when it comes to developing with any piece of property. Criteria number 5. The amendment shall not adversely affect adjacent properties, communities, or health and safety welfare of the residents of the county. Staff finds that the amendment would not adversely affect adjacent properties, as the proposed zone change is from a less restrictive to a more restrictive zone district. We've got more restrictions when you're going to residential, just with what is allowed there and what isn't, and more restrictive setbacks as well. And criteria number 6, does this request conform to all applicable provisions of this resolution? Since the district size is met, staff does find that the request conforms to our zoning resolution. As with almost all the hearings you'll hear today, we've received just 2 comments back from Lumen and Marathon, and neither one of them had any conflict. And one of the things that staff wanted to address both with the commission and with the applicant, Sean Arnoldi is here on behalf of Brian Morenzik today, is just to discuss, staff does recommend approval of the zone map amendment, but something we would like to consider and kind of discuss here today as a time frame that would be tied to the property, to where if there's for some reason development does not occur, then it reverts back to the previous zoning, which is heavy industrial. One thing that has been talked about with Brian in the past is having roughly a 3-year time frame that we'd be looking at, but something I think it would be worth just having a little bit of discussion here today. So that's all I have. And like I said, Sean Arnoldi is here on behalf of Brian today.
Okay, would the applicant like to come up and address the board?
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name's Sean Arnoldi. I'm with WHS. I'm representing Brian Morenzik. He's with 191 LLC. I really don't have any comments other than wanted to take any questions that you guys have.
What kind of time frame are you guys looking at getting with the division?
If we get this zone change approved, they plan on starting, the preliminary plat, the next step within a month of that approval. And then we will start the process to final plat. So, and then once that final plat, if approved, they plan on going to construction next spring. So that's kind of the plan as of now, but things change based on the approval process. So
Any questions from the board?
If we were to impose this 3-year reverting back to provision, would they have a problem with that?
no,
So each phase would be completed before 3 years?
no, that wouldn't be possible.
Okay,
The first phase would be started before those 3 years.
okay.
Point of clarification with that, staff would be okay with just the subdivision process getting started and construction started, even though it will be a phased subdivision. To where the reversion process wouldn't happen if for whatever reason it didn't continue with the phasing. Just one of those things, wanting to tie it to making something happen and not having some R3 land out there, giving people hopes of potential development with that. So just point of clarification.
Question, Megan, I think we submitted with the sketch plat, a phasing plan, and then didn't we have a time frame on each phasing plan? Kind of suggested time frame?
Correct. And that will be even dialed down more once we continue through the subdivision process.
Any more questions?
No, just thanks for
Well-
that clarification.
I think just one more, Eric, on that designation on that roadway out there. I know on one of the last ones we just recently did on some screening. Would that imply with this development as well?
So I brought that up with Mr. Morenzik, was concerns of screening. And so that could possibly, we can bring that up and discuss that during the subdivision process is the most appropriate time. Because there is a little bit of an issue of grade, because the highway, I believe, is higher than the actual where the property sits. So it's going to be a little bit difficult. But the highway is also going to offer a little bit of buffering, right? Because it's such a pretty good size right of way, because it's Highway 191. So, so that'll provide, and the highway is probably going to provide a little bit of screening itself. So, I think that's something, if the applicant's good with it, it would just benefit his property and the selling of those lots to have some sort of buffering in there, fencing and such. So, good question. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd like to add to that. I think, is this on?
Just pull it to you.
Okay. Sorry. So there's been discussion with the owners that, or the potential owners that they would look at possible screening in terms of maybe some trees, larger trees, just to make it more of a, I guess, visual aesthetic piece of land in terms of viewing. I mean, obviously there's Wilkins Peak right there. It's kind of nice looking at. But obviously there's different directions with different kinds of areas, but I think it could be helped by putting trees in, and that's something that they're willing to entertain, is putting some trees on the north side, maybe on the west side of the highway. There hasn't been any confirmed pieces of that puzzle yet, but there is discussions, just so you're aware of that.
All questions for me are good. Anything else? Thank you.
All right, thanks.
This time I will open the meeting up to public comment. Any comments? Having no comments at this time, I will close the meeting for public comments. Any comments from the board? Questions for Megan or? Okay, this time I'd entertain a motion.
Make a motion that we approve the zone map amendment from heavy industrial to high density residential R3 with the staff conditions.
I'll second that.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries.
So we are agreeing on the 3 years, Megan, for that?
Sorry, what was that?
That condition will be 3 years because that's not spelled out in there.
Yep, we will address that. It was one of those, I didn't want to put anything preemptive till we had the discussion, but we will make sure that the 3 years is in there.
Thank you.
Okay, with this, I guess we're ready for public hearing number 3.
All right, so for public hearing number 3, we're back with another variance. And the applicant is Carla Susner with SAC Wireless on behalf of Union Wireless. The property owner there is Smith Rentals, and this is located at 64 Gannett Drive in Rock Springs, zoned commercial. It's within the GMA. And we are here for a variance for maximum height in the commercially zoned area. So this property might look familiar to you guys. This is, oh, my computer is being a little touchy, sorry. So this is the property that Union Wireless had previously proposed a height variance for a 120-foot permanent cell tower on. But when they had the recommendation for denial of the variance by the Planning and Zoning Commission, the application for the variance was withdrawn and Union Wireless requested to meet with staff before the Board of County Commissioners meeting. And then at that meeting, they did break down the information for us and really put it in a way that was more meaningful with a visual simulation as well. And that visual simulation showed what the impact of an 80-foot cell tower on the view shed would be, because we know that that was one of the biggest concerns that was stated. And so today the variance here is they're looking to actually put on an 80-foot self-support tower with ancillary facilities. Currently on the property, there is an existing cow and it's 50 feet in height. That's the maximum height for a commercially zoned district. And that cow would stay on the property while the proposed tower was being constructed. And then once it was all set up and the necessary network changes were made, then the existing cow would be removed from the property. So this is all additional exhibits that were given to us, submitted to us by the applicant. It's all there in your packets to go through. When we get kind of to the end here, we'll allow the applicant to speak a little bit more to what's in here, since that is their areas of expertise. But we do have some of the images that you guys can see too of the visual simulation that they presented to us. And I believe that they'll go through this just a little bit more too, but just to speak to that quickly, they put a crane up and we can see right here at the end, that's about 80 feet. And so all of these images in here show from different vantage points north of Rock Springs what that would look like. So there's quite a few images in there that show what an 80-foot cell tower would be like. We do have our site photos here too, so you can see again the site that this is being proposed to be on. It is commercially zoned, but there are residences in the surrounding and adjacent areas. And then we also have our public notice sign posted 5/23/2024. So when you really look through those pictures and when we get into these criteria for variance, you'll see that the impact of an 80-foot cell tower is lessened quite a bit just by the natural topography of the area. The elevation north of Rock Springs does change quite drastically just depending on where you are. And so that does help lessen that impact a good deal. And so we found that that does support a variance, just the natural topography of the area. Our second review criteria for a variance is that the reasons set forth in the commissioners and board's findings, the circumstances or conditions are such that the strict application of the provisions of the Sweetwater County zoning resolution would deprive the applicant of the reasonable use of the land or building. The granting of the adjustment is necessary, or the reasonable use thereof, and the adjustment as granted is the minimum adjustment that will accomplish this purpose. So the applicant has shown that Union Wireless is utilizing this property. They have storage buildings, the existing cow that's on there, and then the proposed tower. Staff doesn't find that reasonable use would be restricted if the variance is not granted. You know, there are still plenty of allowable uses for that property. However, the applicant also provided evidence that alternative locations within that coverage area would be insufficient, and that the proposed tower height of 80 feet is the minimum height that would be required to provide this service to that area that is necessary. The new tower too is, it'll also be able to accommodate future co-locations. So another important thing to note there. And then our final review criteria for a variance is that, you know, is it in harmony with the purposes of the zoning resolution? And staff finds that it is, that the additional cell phone coverage for 5G is, you know, beneficial for everybody in the area, and that the impact of the residential view shed is minimized by the elevation. The fall zone radius is something also that we talked about last time. With this 80-foot cell tower, the fall zone radius is 40 feet, and this is based on the engineer letter that was submitted to us as well. And it won't impede on the north or east property boundaries or the north and east aerial power lines. The only property that's really at any kind of risk is to the west. There's a building there. However, that building is also owned by Brian Smith, and he is Union's landlord for this property. And they've provided a letter that is in your packets that authorizes Union to proceed with this tower. Also, the tower will not fall within the right-of-way. As Megan said, these were the two comments that we got in from our agencies, Lumen and Marathon. They saw no conflict with this. And so for our staff recommendation, we do recommend approval for a variance for maximum height here on the following conditions. First, that the conditional use permit resolution is approved by the Board of County Commissioners. The second is that the variance is specific to the proposed cell tower and does not apply to any other structure. And third, if the height of the tower is ever to increase above that proposed 80 feet, the applicant would need to go through the variance and conditional use processes again. And we do have our applicant here, and also Cynthia Vandermark is online. She is with SEC Wireless. So I know that they had some other things to share.
Okay, would you guys like to comment?
Sure. My name's Tyler, and I'm with Union. We do it like you mentioned, we do have Cynthia on the phone, and I think she wanted to say a few things, and then we'll be here to support any comments she may have or any questions that we can help answer with her as well. So Cynthia, feel free to take the floor.
Hey, thanks, Tyler. Here, I could share my my PowerPoint here. A lot of the items that were touched on is included in my presentation. And then afterwards, we can go over the photos as well, just to show the different views more slowly. Let me see here. Okay. Just want to make sure I share the right thing. All righty. Can you all see my screen okay?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Union Telephone Company has been doing business in Wyoming since 1914. Sorry, I'm gonna pull this over. You guys can still see that, right?
Mhm.
Okay, great. John D. Woody started providing telephone services to the ranchers here in rural Wyoming, and then has been providing services. And then up into the 1990s, we started getting the wireless services. And Union has been there providing those services to ranchers, rural communities, and urban areas. The services Union provides are essential for everyday communications, keeps residents connected, allows businesses to thrive, keeps workers safe, and lessens first responders' response cycles for any type of emergency. Union Wireless has maintained a lease here since 2008 and placed a cow here in 2014. Our parcel is zoned commercial and is within a commercial corridor of the county. As part of the project, we are requesting to install an 80-foot lattice self-support tower within a 55-foot by 75-foot chain link fence, and install 2 equipment shelters, as well as a propane tank, and then the antenna, radio, and associated cabling. The proposed tower will be suitable for additional co-locations, and Union would minimize the need for any additional towers in the area. We are proposing to, in addition to that, the tower will be designed to collapse onto itself. So as mentioned earlier, the tower would not fall within an 80-foot radius, but would fall within a 40-foot radius. And so it would not, and even better than that, if you look at our proposed layout here, let me see if I can scroll in. This site is designed so that it would be 91 feet away from the northern parcel line. So it would meet all setbacks and then beyond, as well as be farther away than the distance of the height of the tower. The height proposed here, the RF engineer on Union's RF engineers confirmed that the proposed 80-foot tower height is necessary due to the local terrain and the surrounding infrastructure. Union Wireless has determined that 64 Gannett Drive would be the most well-suited location as well in terms of a tower upgrade that would provide the capacity coverage needed to the western portion of North Rock Springs. As stated, the local terrain in the residential area of North Springs is such that the proposed upgrade, a tower antenna height of 80 feet would be the minimum necessary and sufficient enough to clear the local clutter to the north and west and provide signal reach to the residential area. The proposed 80-foot will provide balanced sector loading with dominant sectors throughout the town, improving the individual customer experience, maximizing data throughput rates and the network, and enabling overall spectrum utilization in a high density usage area. When this is our coverage comparison, so the map on the left is showing where we're at today with the antennas at a 47-foot center line antenna height. And as you can see, there's a lot of weak signal, which the yellow and the lighter green areas show. When we move to the 80-foot proposed height, the map on the right, you can see how much the signal strength would increase as well as be stronger for the community and the surrounding residential area and businesses as well. This site was selected for many factors. We did perform a searching for this location, and other locations within were considered. Big items that came up here is that Union has a lease here. They've leased it since 2008, and they lease the entire parcel and utilizes the property today as a remote shop and stores vehicles there today. They have a great relationship with their landlord who owns the subject property and also the western parcel. The site does meet the coverage requirements needed to meet the design items that the RF engineer needs. And it's also provided in the letter to you guys from John Chismar. We did look at other locations as well. There are 2 existing AM towers that are outside of reach of the search ring. However, it would not provide coverage nor would be safe to co-locate to those locations. In addition to that, the county zone districts where an 80-foot tower could be installed are too far out of our network requirements to meet services and demand. This is a map right here where it just shows our search ring as well as our site location. And then these areas that are zoned agriculture, as well as I-2 over here would be our sites where the 100-foot tower would be, per the county ordinance, would be allowable. But in this situation, due to, as stated, all the reasons in the previous slide, this location meets our needs. Before I move on, actually, let me go to the photos but is there any questions that you all have?
Any questions? No, we're good.
Okay, great. I'm gonna stop sharing for a moment and I will switch to the photo sims that we provided. Hopefully I can figure this out. Let's see. Okay. Do you guys now just see the sims?
Yes.
Photo locations? Okay, great. Thank you. So we took a lot of pictures from a lot of different views around this tower. And let me switch my screens here real quick. And, as part of these, of course, the closer you are to the site, the more visible it will be. However, there are some other advantages for us being at the 80-foot height opposed to the 120-foot, which is that when we are at the 80 feet, it becomes lower than a lot of the ridge lines around surrounding the area.
Cynthia,
Yeah.
we can't see the images anymore. There we go. That's much better.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thanks for the heads up. So this is the site here at 64 Gannett Drive. And so, of course, this is a close-up. You can see the existing cow in the back. This other view, B, is right across the street on Yellowstone Road and where the clubhouse and Clubhouse Drive is. This is visible. However, as you can see where the red arrow is, this is below the ridge line, so it won't go over. The same with C, and then this is also just north, a little bit more north on Yellowstone Road. And then D, E, and F, our next images, are directly north of the site and closer to the facility. So it will be more visible there. G and H, these are some sims taken that are more northwest. They're farther down, and they're not as visible as a lot of the trees are actually covering it here, and the elevation is changing a little bit. I, J, K are west of the site. They are some of the closest views that we have, and they're visible here, as well as from L and M and N. when we get to N and O and P views, as well as Q and R, you can start to see that there's the topography kind of plays with and works with us here, and it's not as visible. There are other structures as well and trees here that block that view. S, T, U, V also will not be as visible. As you can see as well, it does not block the ridge line behind the tower. And then these photos, 1 through 6, these are taken just north of the area in the community, like the business kind of commercial community. And as you can see, it'll look as though there are other structures in front of it that are taller. Alrighty, do you guys have anything, do you guys all have any questions?
Board have any questions? No questions. Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate you guys letting me attend virtually.
Anything further from the applicant?
We can answer any other questions you may have, but I think Cynthia addressed everything that we wanted to get across. More importantly, the views and the topography of the area we're trying to cover, based on previous application, minimize that visual impact as well as meet those coverage needs as that elevation. Help describe that for you guys and help show what we're trying to accomplish.
They were improvement over the last one.
And I do appreciate the effort on putting that together because that does give you that visual that helps.
And with this, I'll open up the floor to public comments. At this time, I'm going to close it for public comments. Does the board have any questions? Any inputs or?
Yeah, I don't have any questions, but I just want to echo what Mark said and thanks for the pictures. It really makes a difference of what this looks like. Before when it was 120 foot, imaginations are running wild, but with 80 foot in these pictures, that helps.
With that, I guess I'd entertain a motion.
I'll entertain a motion to approve public hearing number 3, variance section 5G, Sweetwater County zoning resolution, cell tower height with staff recommendations.
I'll second that.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, motion carries. I guess you'll get to go in front of the board as a commission now, so.
Thank you for your favorable decision.
Thank you.
Okay. So for our next hearing, we do have for conditional use permit for SAC Wireless on behalf of Union Wireless. So same thing here. I will skip through quite a bit of this because it's a lot of the very same information on this 80-foot cell tower. Same location, application summary, same. And so are the images here for the site photos. The meat of this is here with our review criteria. There are 9 different items that we looked at. And so as we had discussed before in the variance information, staff does find that this request is consistent with the comprehensive plan and that it will not adversely affect adjacent properties. That's based on the different safety things, like with the 40-foot fall radius and with it being well within the setbacks and away from the public right of way. The proposed site here is again within a commercially zoned district and it is compatible with the uses of those properties. And then there are the residential zoning districts adjacent to the property. And with that, you know, we've seen through the visual simulation that the impact on the view shed for the tower is minimal. And so we do find that this is a compatible use for this area. For review criteria 4 and 5, yes, there are adequate facilities here and Union has demonstrated adequate maintenance already of the site since they began to lease it in March of 2014. For number 6, the request has minimized to the greatest degree possible adverse effects on the natural environment. Staff doesn't predict any adverse effects on natural environment, nor do we see that there'll be any traffic congestion issues as this is an unmanned communication site. And again, kind of just a little bit more repeating here on number 8, that the request will not adversely affect the public health, safety, or welfare. So for those same reasons that were stated previously, staff does not find that this tower would be having any kind of adverse effect on public safety, health, welfare. And then finally, the request conforms to all applicable provisions of this resolution. The request does exceed the height limitations of 5G of the Sweetwater County zoning resolution. So we will need the variance request to be approved by the board. Our comments here, Lumen Marathon, no conflict again. And then staff recommends approval of recommendation for the conditional use permit for an 80-foot cell tower with the following conditions. And the first is that the 80-foot height variance is approved by the Board of County Commissioners, that the variance is specific just to the cell tower, does not apply to any other structure, and that the height, if the height of the tower is to increase above the 80 feet that are proposed, the applicant will go through the variance and CUP processes again.
Okay. We're on to our next one. Applicant like to say anything again on this one?
I don't have any further comments and it'd be a little bit of a repeat. I'll save you guys, but if there are questions, please let me know.
Will do.
Give your time back.
Thank you.
At this time, I'll open up the floor to the comments. At this time, I will close public comments. Any comments from the board? Questions or?
No.
Yeah, so with that, I'll entertain a motion.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the conditional use permit for the communication tower with the conditions laid out by staff.
I'll second that.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Okay,
All righty,
we're on to
number 5.
number 5.
All right.
Thank you.
So public hearing number 5 is a zone map amendment. It is put forth by Sweetwater County Land Use Department. And what it is we're looking to take, we're looking to zone some unzoned parcels. So it's land located in vacated alleyway within Jamestown Block 18, adjacent to lots 6 and 7, or 6 through 7 and lots 8 through 11, and then vacated portion of 4th Street and portion of vacated alley south of Jamestown Block 4 in Sweetwater County. The property owners there are Deborah Buckner, John and Stephanie Jasperson, Kale and Yvonne Jasperson, Revocable Trust, Jasperson, Kale and Yvonne trustees. So this zone map amendment would impact about 0.31 acres of land that are unzoned that were recently created through the vacation process. We would like to zone them as mixed residential or R2. This zone map amendment would help the department be able to document how zoning was assigned and just kind of clean things up a bit here. The surrounding areas, the surrounding properties are also R2, so we don't need to worry about minimum district size of 5 acres. That's not going to be a problem at all in this case. We can see our pieces of land. Here are parcels that are currently unzoned that we're looking to zone as R2. And then we've got 2 different site photos or sets of site photos. So this is 4th and Block 4, north, south, east, and west with our public notice posting. And then our other photos here, Block 6 to 7 and 8 through 11 of the parcels that are going to be or wanting to be zoned. So for our 6 criteria here for our zone map amendment, we looked to see if it was consistent and compatible with the current resolution and comprehensive plan, and found that it is, because, you know, we're looking to clean things up, help us maintain the R2 zoning of the existing neighborhood, and just have very clear zoning maps and regulations here. And the second one is the proposed zoning is suitable for the existing topography. It creates buildable lots, and it does. This is, you know, all residential area. It's just parcels of land that are right within that as well. Third, the proposed zoning is compatible with existing or allowable uses of adjacent properties, and we find that it is. This is within a R2 zone district. And so by zoning them R2, this should be compatible. The proposed zoning can demonstrate adequate public facilities, including roads, drainage, potable water, sanitary sewer, police and fire protection. All of those things are already located within the area. So again, not something that we are concerned with just because of where this is located. Fifth, the amendment does not adversely affect adjacent properties. We've not received any negative complaints about this. And the amendment conforms with the 2015 zoning resolution, because it does meet that district size. So again, our agency comments here, Lumen Marathon said no conflict. And to finalize, summarize everything and conclude us here, staff recommends approval of recommendation for zoning map amendment to establish the zoning to be mixed residential for those parcels.
Just
That's
quick question.
Yeah.
Was it abandoned alleys? That were completely missed for the zoning in the first time? I'm just curious. This is not.
no, absolutely. I will let Megan speak to that though.
Just a little back history on this. The Public Works Department in the last 6 or so months have been cleaning up alleyways or streets that haven't been in use, and people have petitioned to go through the vacation process. So used to be areas of land that weren't vacated or weren't parcels of land that had zoning attached to it. Since they are now parcels of land, that's pretty much why we are here today, and more or less just to have a document saying this is the zoning that got assigned, instead of just me going behind the scenes and switching things on map server. So most of it came about by petitions from the property owners that are mentioned here, just wanting to clear up things because they felt like the alley and the street weren't being used. for appropriate public purposes, and that got approved. I would say within the last 6 months on 2 different tracks, since they're 2 different areas. So just trying to clean up and document things as we're continuing to move forward. Plus hoping that if property owners in the near future, and I think there could be a great possibility for both of these areas to go through our replat process, which will eliminate property lines. And again, just trying to help clean up the Jamestown neighborhood as much as we can. And this is just part of the process that staff wanted to take on to help do that in the future.
Make the next step easier. All right. At this time, I'll open up the meeting to public comments. At this time, I will close public comments and any questions from the board?
No questions.
None. I entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve public hearing number 5, zoning map amendment unzoned to R2 mixed residential.
I second that.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Anything else?
The only other thing that I have is, just so everybody knows, we will be having 3 hearings next month, 2 variances, and then a conditional use permit for another cell tower.
And Mr. Chairman, just an update on Jackalope Wind Project. I, with staff, met with Jackalope, the developers. I don't remember when it was, a couple of days ago, and they are potentially looking at a conditional use the end of this year. So giant wind project. We'll be working as a cooperator. Myself and Commissioner Jones are the representatives for the county through the cooperating process. My biggest thing there is that when we're going through in the comments, I'll be trying to emphasize our requirements when we're going through the Bureau of Land Management so that they align. The other thing is on the, we require 25 key vantage points, visuals in the simulations. And I've met with the applicant and I've talked to Ms. Kimberly Foster about working together, the county and the BLM, because they require that too. And that we could just have the same vantage points together. And they're willing to work with us on that, both the Bureau of Land Management and the developers. So it's all working together, but just want to, it's going to be a big application. It's over 230 wind turbines. But it'll be our first wind project. Potentially in Sweetwater County. I'll just leave it at that. We'll see. I did emphasize some of the concerns, with sage grouse and migration. Not a big of an issue with migration. Definitely with sage grouse there is. The vertical towers. So, and then just bringing up some of the oil and gas concerns, putting these near oil and gas development, what implications that could have on oil and gas, things like that. So just wanted to give you guys a heads up. So, and then and the commissioners too, that this is what's coming. It's coming faster than we thought. So Aubrey Brady, our administrative assistant, has worked on an application, so we can provide for them too. But so we will see. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Oh, thank you, Eric.
Yep.
Anybody else have anything you want to put? Well, seeing nothing else, let's adjourn this meeting. Meeting adjourned.